Jennifer Cave's family and friends are thrilled for her. She's just been hired on full-time as a secretary at an Austin law firm.
Her friend, excited by the news, said, hey, we should go out and celebrate.
But her friend is mixing vodka and Xanax and getting out of hand. Jennifer's first shift starts in a few hours.
They inform her Jennifer didn't come in, and they ask if she knows where she is.
But unfortunately, she never makes it.
The impact on the community and the UT community was significant.
It's a tragedy that University of Texas students will talk about for years to come. When Jennifer Cave fails to show up for her first day at a new job, her parents, Jim and Sharon, worry something has happened to her. They trace her steps back to the last place they believe she was, the Orange Tree condo belonging to a friend of Jennifer's. What they find there is a parent's worst nightmare.
Austin 911, do you need police, fire, or EMS? Please, where are you? Please, our address of the emergency? It's an Orange Tree Apartment. Sir, this is 911. We have a lot of help on the way. I just need to be able to confirm if she is conscious and breathing.
No, I think she's dead.
Okay, so she is past, you believe she's past doing CPR?
I do, and I also believe that we've got a crime scene here that I don't want to disturb.
My name is Snu Thomas. I'm an audio journalist in Austin, Texas. I published a podcast in 2019 called The Orange Tree, which covered the murder of Jennifer Cave and subsequent trials. West Campus is a series of neighborhoods that surround the University of Texas at Austin. I lived there for about 2 years, and during that time I heard a lot about the murder of Jennifer Cave.
August 16th, 2005, Jennifer Cave gets a call from the law firm where she interviewed.
She had just found out that day that she had gotten a job at a law office. In fact, she applied initially for a job at a law office that was a lower position than she ended up getting through the process of her interview because they liked her so much.
Jennifer calls friends and family to share the good news with them while she lays out an outfit for her first day at the new job. For Jennifer's mom and stepdad, this comes as a major relief. It sounds like a step in the right direction that Jennifer needs to get her life on track. Over the past few years, Jennifer's had trouble finding her footing. After high school, she does a semester at Texas State, then decides she wants a change, and ends up at Austin Community College. Jennifer grows up in the small town of Bishop, Texas, which has a population of roughly 3,000 people. Making the move to Austin, Texas feels like a long way from home. It's a big city with a thriving nightlife, overflowing with college kids looking to party. It's a shock for this small-town girl looking to find herself. Jim and Sharon see there's been a change in Jennifer. Sharon is especially concerned that Jennifer seems checked out from school. They fear that she's rudderless, not herself, and at risk of falling in with a bad crowd. Which is why Jim and Sharon are so relieved to hear Jennifer's great news about her new job.
And so that night, after calling all of her family and her friends to let them know the good news, her friend Colton Pataniak, excited by the news, said, hey, we should go out and celebrate. Colton Pataniak was a McCombs business student at UT Austin at the time. He was also like a small-town drug dealer. During his initial years of college, he started dealing drugs out of West Campus and partying a lot, as comes the territory of selling drugs.
A one-time top student at his all-boys Catholic school in Little Rock, Arkansas, Colton no longer seems to care about his academic future. He abuses drugs and alcohol and parties a lot. Lately, Jennifer has put some distance between herself and Colton in an effort to get her life on track. But on the evening of August 16, 2005, Jennifer decides to accept Colton's invitation, and the two go out to celebrate.
In Austin, especially for young people, when you go out to celebrate, you go to 6th Street. It's just a strip of bars, kind of like Bourbon Street in New Orleans. So that's where they decided to go that night. They went into Treasure Island and actually ran into a couple friends who were there for a birthday party. They remember seeing her with Colton, who was clearly very inebriated, where she was not.
It's getting late. Colton is intoxicated from a mix of vodka and Xanax. Jennifer will need to get home soon if she wants to be ready for her first day at her new job in the morning. The last time Colton and Jennifer are seen together by friends, Colton is upset because he can't find his phone, and Jennifer is trying to help him. The group of friends head to another bar and lose track of the pair at this point. The next morning, August 17th, 2005.
Sharon gets a phone call from the law office where Jennifer is supposed to start. They inform her Jennifer didn't come in, and they ask if she knows where she is. Sharon is distraught and calls her daughter.
She wasn't picking up her phone, and she never really did that, especially like at this point in her life. She was being really responsible and getting back to people, so that seemed like odd behavior for her mother and her family. So at the point that Sharon Cave realized that something was going on when her daughter wasn't picking up her phone.
The whole situation immediately sets off alarm bells for Sharon. She's worried something has happened to Jennifer. And since her daughter is on her phone plan, Sharon quickly gets a log of all the numbers Jennifer has recently called. Sharon speaks to a friend of Jennifer's named Michael, who claims he spoke to Jennifer the previous night. Jennifer tells him she has a friend who's having issues and agrees to hang out with him. Michael tells Sharon the friend's name is Colton. Sharon finds Colton's number in Jennifer's call log. She calls him, but he denies having seen her the previous night. Something doesn't add up.
Colton's been getting calls all afternoon from family and friends who know that he was with Jennifer the night before, and that's the last person that anyone saw Jennifer with, up until she didn't show up to her first day of her new job.
Sharon gets back in touch with Michael, who insists that Colton and Jennifer were together the previous night.
She keeps Michael on the phone while she tries Colton again on another phone.
Colton is irritated and tells Sharon he hasn't seen Jennifer and he doesn't know where she is.
Michael knows that Colton is lying, but why? What is he hiding?
Jennifer Cave grows up in the small Texas town of Bishop and eventually moves to the big city of Austin, where she struggles with school and friends. Jennifer has problems finding her footing. Her parents are worried that she doesn't care about college and doesn't know what she wants in life. She's involved with some bad influences, like her friend Colton. Jennifer's parents see her turning her life around when she lands a job as a law secretary. But the night before her first shift, she agrees to go out with friend Colton. She never shows up for work the next day. Sharon has been calling around, trying to get hold of Jennifer without luck. According to her friends, she was last seen with Colton, but when Sharon calls Colton, he denies having seen her. Sharon and Jim decide to call 911 to report Jennifer missing.
Since Jennifer was technically an adult, there was no way for them to file a missing persons report yet. They have to wait the certain amount of time before they could do that, and an official missing persons report can be filed.
The next day, August 18th, Sharon and Jim still hadn't heard from Jennifer. They could wait no longer.
No one was really giving her any answers, especially not the person Jennifer was last seen with, Colton Petoniak. She got really worried. Jim and Sharon decided to drive up to Austin and check in on her.
As Jim and Sharon make the 3-hour drive from Corpus Christi to Austin, they call 911 again.
Sharon speaks to the Austin Police Department and explains the situation.
While it's still too early to file a missing persons report, Sharon describes Jennifer's behavior as out of the ordinary, and the detective deems it worth following up on.
An officer is sent to check out Colton's place. His car is parked in its space, but there's no response at his suite. For now, there isn't much she can do. Later that day, Jim and Sharon arrive in Austin.
After not finding Jennifer or any trace of her where she would normally be, her apartment or elsewhere, they end up going to Colton's apartment. It's the first stop they make, actually, because Jennifer's roommate, Denise Winterbottom, said that she wasn't there at their apartment. So they head to the source of where they last know Jennifer to have been, with Colton.
They knock at Colton's condo. There's no answer. They try the police again and explain that Jennifer's car is here, but they still haven't been able to get in touch with her. They are told that there is no probable cause at this point to enter Colton's apartment, and for now, there's nothing more to do than wait.
They end up knocking on the door for several hours, looking for a sign of any movement inside, just anyone around, in and around, that knows where Jennifer is, but they can't get any information still. And the door is locked. It seems to be deadbolted. And they know that because they call someone to try to come unlock it for them. They call a locksmith and they can't get in because it's deadbolted from the inside. So their next step is to just look for any way to try to get in there. They see a little crack in the outside window. And Jim and Sharon had the idea of maybe opening the window through that crack.
Jim goes and gets a piece of a pair of sunglasses from the car.
And he uses that to basically crack open the window and unlock it from the inside.
He instructs Sharon to wait outside. He knows he may be in danger.
He climbs inside, and once he's there, he's just trying to get through the darkness and the clutter. He describes walking through the small condominium, yelling out loud, trying to make his presence known. If there's anyone in there, to let them know that he is coming in, that he's Jennifer's stepfather, and that he's not trying to harm anyone. He's just trying to look for Jennifer. But no one's answering. It's dark and there's no sign of movement. And that's when he starts to smell something coming from the bathroom, which he doesn't really know his way around this condominium, but he's drawn to the bathroom because of the smell.
What Jim discovers inside Colton's apartment shakes him to his core. He's barely able to convey to Sharon that there is a dead body inside, and he thinks it may be Jennifer.
Austin 911, Denise Police, Fire or EMS. Please hurry, please hurry. Our address of the emergency. It's an Orange Tree Apartment. Yes, sir, this is 911. We have a lot of help on the way. I just need to be able to confirm if she is conscious and breathing.
No, I think she's dead.
Okay, so she is past, you believe she's past doing CPR?
I do, and I also believe that we've got a crime scene here that I don't want to disturb.
With police on the way, Sharon and Jim may finally be able to answer the question of what happened to Jennifer. But new questions begin to form. What happened to Colton, and where is he? An officer arrives at the condo to discover a grisly crime scene. He finds the body of a young woman in the bathtub. It is partially dismembered, missing both the head and the hands. Officer Barberia notices a bloody hacksaw. He sees a plastic garbage bag near the tub, and given the shape of it, he knows what's inside. Who is capable of doing something like this? And why?
While the primary crime scene is located in the bathroom, investigators discover what are likely bloodstains in several other areas of the condo. They also discover the likely murder weapon, a 9mm handgun, as well as 2 shell casings. Whoever did this didn't make much of an attempt to clean up afterwards. Nevertheless, at this point in the investigation, there's many more questions and answers, so they must be thorough in cataloging the evidence.
Given that Colton's condo is so close to campus, students are rattled by the fact that a murder has occurred so close to home. But for now, details of the grisly crime are withheld. The body is identified as Jennifer Cave. The cause of death is from a 9mm bullet that passes through Jennifer's arm and lodges in her aorta, stopping her heart and causing near-instant death. But a second bullet is fired.
It's difficult to describe and impossible to comprehend, but a second bullet from the same gun was discovered in the severed head of Jennifer Cave. The bullet entered the area of the stem of her neck and lodged in her skull, indicating that it was fired after she was already dead. Whatever the reason for doing this, it may present investigators with a glimpse into the psyche of her killer. Detectives are intentionally withholding the details of the crime from the press. They fear that if the public knew, imposters would come forward and claim responsibility. Anytime you have a murder like this, it tends to draw out some very depraved individuals, attention seekers, all who want to take credit for it.
Detective David Fugit is assigned to the case. His main priority right now is tracking down Colton for questioning.
One of the detectives who was really following this, who was in charge of tracking down Colton, actually had kind of an easy time pinpointing him at the time because Colton never turned his cell phone off.
The cell phone trace shows that Colton is in Piedras Negras, Mexico, but pings from cell phone towers aren't useful in pinpointing someone's exact location. If he has any hope of extraditing Colton and getting to the bottom of what happened to Jennifer Cave, he'll need to coordinate with local authorities.
Jennifer Cave is drawn to the troubled, self-destructive persona of her friend Colton. Jennifer's stepfather, Jim, describes this as the, quote, stray dog theory, a pull to help the wayward, the down and out. But since high school, Jennifer herself has been without much in the way of purpose or direction. But Jennifer seems about to turn her life around with a full-time job at a law office where she's excited to start work. Only Jennifer never shows up to work. And in their search to find their daughter, Jim and Sharon are led back to Colton's Orange Tree condo, where they find Jennifer's body in the bathtub. Now detectives are desperate to speak to Colton and get to the bottom of what happened. But they'll need to find him first.
While detectives are busy trying to track down Colton, they get a call from the parents of Laura Hall. Laura's parents have received some cryptic emails from their daughter saying that she's gone to Mexico and she doesn't plan on coming back. Investigators' lone fugitive theory is about to go out the window. Colton Pitoniak is in Mexico, and he's not alone.
Laura Hall was a student at UT as well. By all accounts, including her own, she had a huge crush on Colton. She liked him a lot, and she was hoping to pursue a romantic relationship, something more serious than he had in mind at the time.
While he's not yet sure how she's involved, Fugit is now looking for Laura Hall and her green Cadillac.
Footage is captured of Laura and Colton crossing the border. At the checkpoint where they cross into Mexico, you see footage of Laura and Colton handing over their IDs to officials. The drive is pretty long, but Laura seems to have driven the whole way, and Colton in the passenger seat was still trying to stay as drunk as possible and still taking a lot of Xanax.
Detective Fugit now has concrete proof that Laura Hall is involved and that she and Colton have fled to Mexico.
Detectives already have a mountain of questions for Colton, but more questions are raised as to how and why Laura Hall is involved and what role, if any, did she play in Jennifer Cave's murder.
Meanwhile, nearly 4 hours away, Colton and Laura Hall are holed up at a hotel in the Mexican city of Piedras Negras.
So after making their way into Mexico, Colton and Laura are hiding out at a hotel, and it's at that time they're really paranoid. Colton is still drinking and doing a lot of drugs. They end up befriending the hotel manager, Pedro Fernandez. He invited Colton over actually to watch mixed martial arts on his television.
Colton and Laura accept Pedro's invitation to watch a fight at his place. Colton is very inebriated, but still paranoid.
When this happens is kind of when things begin to unravel. When he notices that Laura and Colton are displaying kind of odd behavior, he gets a little suspicious.
Colton and Laura openly ask the hotel manager about extradition laws, about selling Laura's car, and suggest they can't go back to the U.S. Well, naturally, that sets off a lot of red flags.
And during this time, when Laura and Colton are over at his place, kind of partying, watching mixed martial arts with Pedro, is when that infamous photo is taken of Laura and Colton by Pedro's child's playpen, smiling ear to ear, holding a stuffed animal. It's described that, Colton is really paranoid, very somber, and stressed out, but this photo tells a completely different story of how they were feeling at the time.
Detective Fugit has yet to learn Laura's motive for aiding Colton. But given the high media profile of this case, he is eager to get the two in custody.
Yes, the media was really all over this case, and particularly the story about Colton and Laura going to Mexico and being in hiding for a few days. That's when the media scrutiny was very high.
The hotel manager continues to be suspicious of the odd American couple he's just had over to watch the fight. So he speaks to a friend in the Border Patrol and learns of a murder that recently happened in Austin.
He reaches out to Detective Fugit and sends him the photo of Colton and Laura, as well as the location of the hotel they are staying at.
Thanks to the hotel manager, detectives are able to narrow their search and locate Laura and Colton. They get in touch with Mexican law enforcement, who are eager to cooperate with U.S. authorities.
On August 23, 2005, 5 days after the murder of Jennifer Cave, the pair of fugitives are arrested in their hotel room by Mexican authorities.
Laura and Colton are separated and interrogated, but because they only have an arrest warrant for Colton, they let Laura go. Investigators present Colton with what they know about the case. There's a mountain of evidence against Colton, so they're hopeful that he'll cooperate. But Colton is afraid to talk without his lawyer.
Are you telling me that you don't want to talk to me and you want an attorney?
I'm ignoring you an attorney.
Either you want to talk to us today, and obviously there's no attorney present. Okay. All right, then we can't talk to you, and we'll just go with the information that we have.
Fugit must terminate the interview. He'll have to wait a little longer to find out what happened to Jennifer that fateful night. Detective Fugit learns his prime suspect in Jennifer Cave's murder, Colton Petoniak, has fled to Mexico with friend Laura Hall. Colton and Laura are arrested in their hotel room in Mexico 5 days after Jennifer Cave's murder. Laura is released and Colton is held. He refuses to speak to police without his attorney. Assistant District Attorneys Bill Bishop and Stephanie McFarland are assigned to Jennifer's case. The main facts of their case are simple. Jennifer was found in Colton's apartment.
The gun that killed her belonged to Colton. His fingerprints are all over the weapon. Add this to the fact that he fled to Mexico, and the case seems pretty cut and dried. But the DA has learned that Colton's parents have hired legendary defense attorney Roy Minton, and they wonder what sort of defense he could possibly be mounting. But they're ready for a fight.
Roy Minton is known for taking on hard cases, but he's also a pragmatist. He and his partner, Sam Bassett, must carefully comb the details of the case, making educated guesses at how the state will come after their client and ultimately form a defense that might reasonably stand up in court.
My name's Sam Bassett. I've been practicing law in Austin, Texas for 32 years. I specialize in criminal defense, and I represented Colton Petoniak at the time of his trial. This case was certainly the most high-profile case I had been involved in. There was quite a bit of publicity in Austin, in the Austin area, and throughout the state, and perhaps nation.
One of their big hurdles is that Colton's substance abuse has created massive gaps in his memory. And without witnesses, the case will eventually come down to the physical evidence, mainly the handgun that is fired, causing Jennifer's death.
I think that the impact on the community and the UT community was significant. Colton was not the type of person that would usually be accused of committing some sort of crime like this. He was a good student who had been in a fraternity, and a lot of people were scratching their heads in the UT community about what had happened, why it had happened.
With questions still lingering on all sides of this case, the day of Colton's trial arrives. Jennifer's family and the community at large are hopeful that this trial will finally provide answers for what happened to Jennifer Cave and why.
The judge makes the surprising decision to allow Court TV Network to televise the proceedings. This very public case will now be available in real time to a shocked and curious public audience.
In this case, the Court TV camera was set up literally in the middle of the gallery, and it was a very large camera. Under the rules, the jurors couldn't be photographed, and witnesses who did not want to be photographed were excluded. But it was a very dominating influence in the courtroom, so it was a very significant part of what was going on inside the courtroom.
In the public eye, Colton is already guilty, but the question that people want answered is why he did it, and why he dismembered Jennifer's body the way he did. For the state, however, the burden of proof lies only in demonstrating that Colton did in fact murder Jennifer. The question of why he did it is not necessary to answer.
Colton's lawyers offer a rather surprising plea. They are not going to contest that Colton killed Jennifer, but they are asking that the charge of involuntary manslaughter be considered in this case.
In the opening statement, we addressed our theory of the case at that time. And the theory was that because of the manner in which Jennifer was shot, under the arm on the side, and the kind of random nature of the bullet going across her body and actually piercing her aorta, which was a very long shot type of situation, combined with everything we had learned from witnesses, all that information we compiled and had to come up with a strategy to defend him against the charge of murder.
In Colton's trial, he came out initially and due to the advice of his lawyers, said, I did kill Jennifer, but it was unintentional.
Based on the information we had, we concluded that the theory of the accident fueled by intoxication was the most credible theory that we could go on in defending Colton.
The state also brings up that this wasn't the first time a gun went off in Colton's apartment. He was known for playing around with guns a lot because he was selling drugs and he wanted to have this like hardcore image of him as a gangster. So they bring up a specific instance of him playing with a gun and it accidentally firing and shooting his dishwasher.
But ultimately, the judge decides against allowing the jury the charge of a lesser offense.
He denied our request, and I think this jury would have struggled if they had the option of manslaughter versus murder.
The trial doesn't last long. Colton's defense is limited in its options, as Colton has admitted to killing Jennifer. Their only hope is to paint a picture of a man who was not aware of what he was doing and hope for leniency in the sentencing.
Essentially, Colton's lawyers were just trying to get him a lighter sentence. They were trying to get him some sympathy from the jury by showcasing that he didn't remember any of that night, that he was so barred out on Xanax, had taken so many pills and drank so much that whole day that there's no possible way he could have intentionally killed this friend that he initially set out to celebrate for success with.
Minton allows Colton to testify in his own trial, a rarity for someone accused of murder. Minton doesn't go easy on his client. His tactic is to show that there are serious gaps in Colton's memory and that Colton likely misfired the gun that killed Jennifer by accident.
I think the most compelling witness was Colton Petoniak, and I think he was being truthful. I don't think he remembered what happened. And I know that that's a lot of people have criticized him and us for testifying to that, but I think he was telling the truth. They also tried to show that the gun didn't have an unusually hair trigger type of pressure point. It is something that we had our own ballistics expert look at to see what the pull ratio was on the gun to determine if, for instance, that would have been consistent with our theory of an accident. It wasn't ruled out by ballistics that it could have been an accident, but it was also pretty solid evidence that the gun didn't have an unusually light pressure trigger.
For Colton's attorneys, their only real hope is to try to convince jurors that Colton shot Jennifer by accident and that the ensuing dismemberment was the suggestion of Laura Hall.
Colton is seen at a hardware store on August 17, 2005 at approximately 2:34 p.m. He has with him a shopping list. He purchases a hacksaw and some cleaning supplies. His defense alleges that he was still intoxicated at the time and that Laura Hall came up with the shopping list and the plan to cut up Jennifer's body.
Minton suggests that Colton is so messed up on prescription drugs and alcohol that he can't think for himself, and that Laura, a young woman completely in love and obsessed with him, did all the decision-making, including the decision to flee to Mexico. But for those hoping to hear Laura's side of the story, they are left in the dark.
Laura Hall showed up because we subpoenaed her to the courtroom, and after that she asserted her Fifth Amendment privilege and did not testify.
The jury reviews the facts of the case and comes to a unanimous decision.
Colton ends up being charged with murder, which is a 55-year sentence in his case.
At the back of the courtroom sits Colton's accomplice, Laura Hall, whose own road to justice is about to be paved. On August 17, 2005, Jennifer Cave is brutally murdered at the Orange Tree Condos in Austin, Texas. And the primary suspect, Colton Petoniak, flees to Mexico with friend Laura Hall. Colton is tried for Jennifer's murder and found guilty. He is sentenced to 55 years in prison. But Laura Hall's ordeal is just beginning. Laura Hall is brought in on charges of harboring a fugitive and tampering with evidence.
What was most disturbing was there was medical examiner evidence that after the head had been decapitated from the body, that a bullet had been shot up through the neck, and the bullet was lodged in the top of the skull. So there was a post-mortem shooting of the head of Jennifer Cave's body. That was shocking to the medical examiner, and I think it was shocking to everybody involved in the case. How could somebody do something like that? It was certainly our theory that that was done by Laura.
Officer Mark Gilchrist wants to give Laura the opportunity to explain herself. But when it appears she may not be willing to cooperate, he informs her that she's under arrest.
You don't want to talk to me without your attorney, that's what you're telling me? Okay.
I mean, unless, I don't know. If you're saying I might be in some kind of trouble.
Read that.
Oh my God.
Laura Ashley Hall, you are under arrest for hindering apprehension.
Hindering apprehension?
Yes, ma'am. Now you understand how serious this is?
Oh my God.
Okay.
What's gonna happen?
You're gonna go to jail.
What did I...
You gotta tell the truth.
Laura decides to waive her right to an attorney and cooperate with detectives. But her story of what happens and her involvement in it changes wildly. At one point, she claims Colton tells her he is attacked.
He said that 3 people came into his apartment. One of them was Jen. They had guns. He said that, well, he didn't say one of them was Jen, but he said like one of them was, one of them was her, right? He said he left the door unlocked and they came in shooting at him.
But there's no evidence to back this claim, and Laura admits this was unlikely. Laura changes her testimony from she felt scared and threatened by Colton to she was in love with him and didn't believe he committed the crime.
I just couldn't fathom his guilt. And I wanted to be able to help him in any way I could.
Detectives are left without a clear picture of Laura's involvement. One thing, however, is clear. Laura's DNA is found throughout the condo, including on the murder weapon, the 9mm handgun that killed Jennifer Cave. The question that most people hope will be answered through Laura's trial was who mutilated the body and why. But this question is never answered. During Colton's trial, he claims he doesn't remember what happened, and Laura claims she had nothing to do with it, even though her DNA can be found on several pieces of evidence.
Laura ends up being charged and sentenced to 5 years for hindering apprehension and tampering with evidence. That's simply because it was the maximum that she could really get for those 2 things that really were the only things that they could use to charge her with.
While in prison, Laura appeals her case.
While Laura was in prison serving the first part of her initial sentence, she actually spent a lot of that time talking to her friends and family from jail phones. And all those phone calls get recorded. And so, lawyers will tell you, hey, if they're still going to take something to trial, don't say anything that maybe will be inflammatory or can be used against you.
That girl's mom sounded like a real moron. She's mad because I have a daughter and you're not dead, and she doesn't have a daughter. And
yeah, so she's jealous. Maybe she's going to stab him to death. Everybody knows, I'm going to be okay because I'm going home in mid-March, it's official.
Well,
tell me you're not going to piss on my good fortune.
Well, it's probably going to happen that way, Laura.
I'll kill you.
Well, I hope you don't.
Laura said a lot of things that were pretty damning to her friends and family, and a lot of that was used in her second trial.
They've had an interview with that girl's mother again.
She's going down.
It was something that kind of shocked the whole courtroom, was hearing Laura's jail phone calls. It was definitely something that added to the picture that the state was trying to paint of Laura being someone that would be able to do something that was this heinous. As a result, Laura's sentence was doubled from 5 to 10 years.
What right do they have to make these decisions? They're ruining my life. What right do they have to do this? Our Constitution gives them that right? No, I can't believe that. This is not my America.
Over the years, several individuals come forward and sign affidavits stating Laura claims that she killed Jennifer. One of them is Laura's cellmate.
It's been shown in all of the actual innocence cases we've seen in the last 10 or 20 years that jailhouse informants are some of the most unreliable witnesses, both for the prosecution and for the defense. So if you're basing your defense solely on jailhouse informants, you're kind of grasping. And that was one of our concerns about using the single person from the jail that we had interviewed as a defense to Colton by pointing the finger at Laura.
Colton's appeals never amount to anything, and Colton is still serving his 55-year sentence. They do, however, continue to cast a shadow over Laura's life. Laura was released on March 15, 2018, after having served her sentence. The one good thing to come from the case is Sharon's work in getting the Jennifer Cave Act passed in 2007 by Governor Rick Perry.
Specifically because of Laura's trials, the creation of the Jennifer Cave Act came about. It was something that was pushed by Sharon Cave and the Cave family as a whole. It has two parts to it. The first part being specifically about the sentencing that Laura had, and it changed it so that no longer, if there's a case like this that happened again, we wouldn't have to use those grave digger laws to sentence someone for something like this again. And the second part was actually pertaining to the jury. Sharon Cave was really affected by a lot of the jury members' reactions to the exhibits that were shown at trial and the details that they were forced to hear. And so what it did was it offered counseling for jury members that take part in Texas trials, which is a huge deal because prior to this case, that was not something that was mandatory for Texas to offer jury members. Overall, I think that it just really showcases that family's resilience and their ability to take this situation and actually give back to their community. Even in like a moment that is really heartbreaking and distressing to them, they found a way to make a difference.
Looking to make a great life for themselves.
He was nice to everyone. He was very generous to his family, beloved by all.
When Eric loses contact with everyone in his life, his friends and family are quick to grow concerned.
He had not spoken to family in 2 days.
That was just highly unusual.
But for him, it's already too late. Silver Spring, Maryland, is a community located just north of Washington, D.C.
It was really up and coming. A lot of clubs, a lot of bars, a lot of brand new high-rise houses and apartment buildings, condominiums. It's a much younger crowd, a much more urban crowd, lots of metro access, lots of jobs available, very close to D.C. So it's a very sought-after area.
It's a very diverse community. It's kind of an urban area, even though we are a suburban community. It is literally only maybe a block and a half outside of the District of Columbia. It was a very trendy area.
Eric Samoa was charismatic. That was the number one word that a lot of people use to describe Eric. He worked at a luxury dealership in Bethesda, and he was a smooth talker. He was funny. He was the person everybody wanted to be around. He was the number one salesman at their dealership. He was the first one in. He was always the last one to leave. Everybody loved him.
Eric Simone was 34 years old. He was beloved by friends and coworkers. Eric made somewhere between $10,000 and $20,000 a month. He was a ladies' man. He was nice to everyone. He was very generous to his family, beloved by all. He was the kind of guy that kept contact with just about everybody that was part of his life, family and friends. He was very attentive to his customers, which led to his success in business. And, he was a very popular guy.
Eric is living it up. He has great relationships, an incredible job, and lives in style.
Apartment complex was one with a brand new facility surrounded by $750,000 condominiums to $1 million condominiums. Lots of shopping and dining you could walk to in this particular area. The building itself was very fancy. It had an indoor pool and workout facilities.
In spring of 2012, everyone in Eric's life suddenly loses all contact with him.
So at that point, on June 6th of 2012, Eric had not shown up for work. And that was, of course, unusual for Eric. His manager was concerned. He had not spoken to family in 2 days. Eric was always very involved with his family. He talked with his sister, his friends a lot. And that was concerning to them that there was 2 days where basically he was unavailable.
This is somebody who lived with his cell phone. It was absolutely essential to all of his personal relationships and the way he conducted his business. That's how he reached out to his customers. His phone went dead. That was just highly unusual. The work people were so concerned, they contacted his family and talked to his mom and his sister. And one of his sisters ultimately called Montgomery County Police and requested that the police do what we call a welfare check. Can you please go to the apartment, check to see if he's okay? They got together with the landlord who gave him the key.
Calling the police is usually thought of as something strictly for worst-case emergencies, but sometimes we're needed just to come into a situation and make sure everything's okay. A welfare check is something that can be critical when a person lives alone and suddenly loses contact.
When they went to the apartment, the first thing police noticed was a really awful smell. And Eric's apartment, though very luxurious in a high-rise, was small. So when they came in the front, you kind of immediately see this bedroom to the side. And that's where Eric's body was found, in bed, virtually looking undisturbed. All the lights off, the blinds shuttered. And Eric was actually hands tucked under his chin, his sheet tucked under between his hands, just as if he was peacefully sleeping. But obviously the police noticed that there was a bullet hole in his head. Initially, police thought that it was a suicide.
While police are conducting their welfare check in Eric's apartment, his family is down in the lobby waiting on news. By the time they are told what is happening, the investigation is leaning toward the theory that Eric has committed suicide.
That was the initial information that was relayed to his family. They were absolutely horrified by the suggestion that that was what would happen. They said he would never do that.
The initial theory that Eric must have committed suicide doesn't last very long after the scene of the crime is more thoroughly investigated.
That was backtracked on very quickly because the officers obviously conspicuously saw that there was no gun.
This was not a suicide. It was a homicide.
There was one shell casing found on the bed. It was a spent shell casing from a .380. No gun was located.
The medical examiner conducts an autopsy to confirm cause of death and look for any other possible forensic evidence which could help steer the investigation.
The mechanism for death in this case was a gunshot wound. The gunshot wound was to the high part of the front of his head, the temple. It appeared to be an execution, essentially, to us and to the police. And there was also a bullet that was recovered at the time of the autopsy inside of Eric's body.
There is very limited evidence at the crime scene, leaving ballistic evidence as the only lead to follow.
There appears to have been nothing stolen, nothing ransacked, so it also appeared that whoever got into his apartment was someone that he let in there. They didn't break in, and they apparently didn't come to steal anything because they didn't take anything.
With no apparent sign of theft or disruption to the apartment, we're left to believe that whoever is responsible is likely someone Eric knows, someone he's close enough with that they either have their own key or he's comfortable with them spending the night.
With little else to go on, the police are left with only a .380 bullet shell to bring Eric's killer to justice. But will it be enough? In community just north of Washington, D.C. Great for young professionals to build their lives. Eric Samoa is a successful car salesman, known for keeping in touch with everyone close to him and never having his phone too far from reach.
When Eric hasn't been heard from for 2 days straight, his family calls the police to do a welfare check, leading to the discovery that he has been murdered.
Later on in the investigation, it was very quickly realized that Eric's phone was missing. That was the only thing that was missing from the apartment, and there were valuables all around, his wallet, a watch. The only thing missing was the phone.
Eric's missing phone is considered especially curious because he's known for keeping in touch with everyone close to him. His lack of communication is exactly what tipped off his family and led them to have the police check on him. Why wouldn't his phone be in his apartment? Has whoever killed him taken it?
So at that point, the police, I think their first line of attack was Eric's life through that cell phone. They didn't have the phone. They were able to very quickly get cell phone records. And they were able to see when Eric was texting messages, where the phone was. They were looking for the phone's location. The phone was ultimately never found. And throughout those records, they were able to identify the people that Eric was in contact with on the last days of his death. Most of them were friends and family. Most of them were people that had reached out to the police, that were concerned about the investigation and asking questions. The police, though, did quickly realize that there was one number that kind of kept coming up over and over again. It was a Mississippi number. And his family didn't know that he knew anyone from Mississippi.
The police focus on trying to identify the owner of this Mississippi number from Eric's cell phone records.
The police didn't know who this person was, so one of the detectives in the case decided to really just canvass the garage of the apartment complex to see if they could find a car from Mississippi. A lot of young people live in the area. We're close to D.C. A lot of people who only are in the D.C. area for a short period of time do live in Silver Spring. So the police thought, hey, maybe there was somebody from out of state that was here, and they were able to locate that car.
Tracing the license plate number reveals the name Katrina Ben, a woman who has recently moved into the building. With this information, the police are able to track her down and bring her in for an interview to ask her about her relationship with Eric.
So Katrina Ben was from Silver Creek, Mississippi. She was a very young, very attractive, very smart nurse. And by all accounts of people who knew her and previous employers, she was really good at what she did. Her patients really liked her. She ended up becoming a traveling nurse because she wanted to sort of see the country and see the world. And she was with a company that would staff her to 3-month sort of stints all around the country. So she moved very, very frequently, and she did get to do what she wanted. She got to see a lot of the country through her job.
She also was a very attractive young woman. Her families did have some concern. You know, as you might imagine, a young, attractive young woman who sort of a nomadic, moving around every 3 months from place to place. They had some concerns about that, but she loved it, and that's what she did. And she was apparently beloved by the patients that she cared for and had lots of close friends.
So Katrina and Eric actually met at the Viridian apartment. There was a community lounge on the 15th floor that was available to residents for parties and community functions. And during that time of the year was the NBA playoffs. And the apartment was organizing sort of playoff watch parties for the residents to go. She was wearing scrubs. He recognized her as a nurse. Eric was very entrepreneurial. He was always looking to kind of set up new companies, start a side hustle. And one of the things he was looking to do was start up a nursing staffing company. And she was also interested in that as well. So when he saw that she was in the healthcare field, they exchanged information related to potentially establishing a business relationship, but they also became quick friends as they were in this social group that was watching the NBA tournament.
That began a friendship that very, very quickly escalated into a sexual relationship between the two of them. During the 3 or 4 weeks, there were extensive text messaging that went back and forth between Eric and Katrina. And that text messaging began 3 or 4 weeks before, pretty benignly. Nice to meet you. Hey, handsome, how you doing? How's your day going? Very benign things. It became very easy to see the rapid escalation in the nature of the relationship simply by reading the text messages. And it rapidly became sexual, and they openly talked about it in their exchanges on the text messages. And coming up to the night of the murder, if you read the text messages, you realized that she was supposed to come over to his apartment that night to watch, they were both mutual NBA fans. They were supposed to come over to watch a game in the apartment that evening.
I'm a basketball fan, and so is he. So that was our connection. The game was coming on that night, and he was like, we can go, we can watch it.
On Monday, June 4th of 2012, Eric Samoa and Katrina Ben made plans to watch an NBA playoff game. And Katrina was supposed to come to Eric's apartment to watch that game. Eric and her hung out that evening, but she herself would say that Eric just was not attentive to her. He was making phone calls, he was paying bills, he was online checking his email, and he even took her at some point to go to a drug dealer's to buy some marijuana.
Sometime in the second quarter, he said, I did something real stupid a couple of days ago. And I was like, what? He said, I smoked some weed. I was like, okay, whatever floats your boat. You know, I know people that smoke weed. I've never had any in my life. Feel free to take a blood sample, hair sample, whatever you need to do. I've never had any. I don't like to be around it, you know. And I kind of said something to that effect to him. I was kind of joking, but I was like, I work for the government. I ain't got time to be going down for no weed, you know. He was like, girl, please, I know somebody in the building, you know, I kind of want some. A few minutes later, he called someone, and he asked them 2 or 3 times, where are you at? Where are you at? Where are you at? And then he just hung up. I don't know if they hung up on him. I don't know.
As Katrina continues recounting the events of the night, this unknown person crops up again.
Beginning of the third quarter, he, I know this sounds so stupid, but for real, I just relate stuff to what quarter it was.
Too, so
you know, I don't know what time it was.
That would have been probably, the games usually last about 2 hours, right?
Yeah.
So we're talking probably a little after 10.
Yeah,
10 and 10:30 then.
So whoever this was, he was speaking code, but I'm not stupid.
Right.
I know what 420 is.
What was the code?
You know, 420 is what I picked up on, but it was other I don't know what the hell he was saying. Okay. I'm not that cool. I don't know.
There absolutely was a contact between this marijuana dealer and Eric the night that he died. She went with him to the marijuana dealer's house, and they did buy drugs.
And she was able to give the police sort of very specific directions about the path they took to get to this drug dealer's house. Very detailed description of what he looks like, and she's able to describe the conversation between Eric and this drug dealer in great detail.
Eric and Katrina go back to his apartment after their drive. They watch the rest of the basketball game and eventually go to bed.
She is awoken in the night to hearing 2 men talking, and she recognizes that one of them is Eric, and she believes the other one of the men in the apartment is this drug dealer that she saw earlier. And she says she's sort of looking through a crack in the door, hearing this conversation.
When I woke up to him talking to somebody, and it was a guy. And he opened the bedroom door, he came in. And as he opened the door, I could see who I think is the guy from the apartment, like walk by to go to the couch. So that's who he was talking to.
When Eric comes into the room to see Katrina, he has been smoking marijuana. She doesn't want to risk smelling like it herself and tells him she doesn't want to be near him.
And she kind of says she feels uncomfortable. She doesn't really know what's going on. She doesn't want to be there. So she decides to go through the closet exit for the bedroom out to the front door.
Can y'all just please tell me what happened?
Well, like I said, I think I told you that he was murdered. We still trying to put the timeline together, but obviously we thought you were one of the last people to have, been with him. But now, you're telling us that when you left, this guy's with him.
Katrina's account of the night gives the police their first major suspect. But who is this supposed drug dealer? And can they find him before he kills again? Eric Samoa is found murdered in his own bed, shot in the head with a .380. Police are able to get his phone records, revealing that he's been in close contact with Katrina Ben on the night of his murder. Katrina is brought in for questioning and explains that she isn't the last one to see Eric alive. She tells them that when she leaves his apartment, a drug dealer is there.
There were text messages that led them to a phone number, which led them to a cell phone location and then an associated address. They ended up going to that associated address, and this drug dealer was arrested on unrelated drug charges.
We did a search warrant. The purported drug dealer owned a .380. Now, as you can imagine, based on the information coming from Katrina, that he was there when she left, knowing that he was shot with what appeared to be a .380, they thought, well, here it is. This is the murder weapon.
At this point, it looks like an open and shut case. The victim was killed by a .380. A witness places this man at the scene of the crime. This man even owns a .380.
He was interviewed. He absolutely adamantly denied being involved in the murder, and he flat out said, I've never been to his apartment, check my phone. And the police did. And never once could they put him through his phone at Eric's apartment.
The investigation into this man does not stop with phone records. The police continue to look into him, but as evidence continues to build, they're forced to concede that he could not have been involved.
And what we did, in fact, was through cell phone records, we found out where the drug dealer was at the time of the killing. We looked at the photo records and realized he never came into the building. We interviewed him and found out that, look, I don't even know where my customers live. I don't go to their houses. They come to me. Using the cartridge case, they were able to exclude the .380 as the gun that had fired the bullet that killed Eric. And so the .380, even though he owned a .380, it was not the murder weapon. It was excluded as the murder weapon.
While the police rule out their prime suspect, Eric's funeral is held, and Katrina says her final goodbye with the rest of Eric's friends and family.
Katrina Ben attended Eric Samoa's funeral, and she sat front and center, and she grieved, and she was dressed to the nines, and I remember it was a black dress and heels. She mingled with the family, and she sent her condolences. When the investigation ran cold, the police did ultimately sort of turn back to Katrina. There were a lot of seasoned detectives on this case, and there were just a lot of little things that didn't add up. Some of her reactions were strange. Some of her reactions were inconsistent.
She became the focus in the investigation, mainly because of the text messages. Showed their relationship and showed that there was some tension in the relationship about him not really giving her the kind of attention she wanted. And even on the night of the murder, attempting to break the date before they actually did come to be together, ostensibly to watch some portion of an NBA basketball game.
On June 29, 2012, Katrina is approached at her building by police wearing a hidden recording device.
So at some point, the detectives decided to wear a recorder to go to her apartment to execute a search warrant. Unbeknownst to Katrina, that entire encounter was recorded, and police officers were talking to her throughout that search.
I shouldn't have to deal with this. I'm tired of it. This is what happened. Two and a half months of my life, and this is what I have to deal with. You know, Eric was a cool person. I had great times with Eric,
but also understand. I mean, he's dead.
To me,
He's dead.
Worth all this. He was not.
Obviously, I don't think that you killed him. But the only way I could tell my boss to kind of like leave you the hell alone is to say, we checked the computer, we checked the phone. She doesn't have do you own a gun? Have you ever fired a gun? No. Do you have a gun?
We should have one.
Do you have a gun in your apartment? Anywhere here?
During that meeting, I think the officer's suspicions were heightened because at that point, she said, I wish this guy had killed me. And officers kind of were perplexed by that. And she said, it probably would be a lot more peaceful for me right now if he had just killed me instead of Eric. And the police were really baffled by that comment because it was just very cold, it was very calculating, and it was very different from the grieving kind of girlfriend that she wanted to portray at the beginning of the investigation.
Regardless of suspicions leaning toward Katrina, there is only evidence that she's with Eric that night and nothing to connect her to the actual murder. Because of this, the police instead put their focus on finding the murder weapon.
It might be a bit of a long shot, but at this point, the lead detective on the case begins looking at lost property, which might have been turned in since the date of the murder, with the hope that maybe a gun had been turned in.
So what actually happened was, at that time in 2012, any lost property that was found by the police, it simply was categorized as like one code, missing property. Didn't matter if it was a gun, didn't matter if it was a cell phone, didn't matter if it was a bicycle. So all that missing property just went into one code. So what Detective Reuven did was he pulled every single piece of missing property in those days after Eric Samoa's murder, and there ended up being, I think, like 58 reports. And the second to last report was a discarded 380 Lorson that was found on the side of 495, not terribly far from Eric's apartment.
Is murdered in his own bed. The only evidence as to who could be responsible are the ballistics found at the scene and the fact that his cell phone has gone missing. Cell phone records reveal that Katrina Ben is most likely the last person to see Eric alive. But there's nothing to connect her to the actual act. But the discovery of the .380 automatic Colt pistol could be a key to breaking the whole case.
The missing property report has an account of where and when the gun was found.
If anybody's ever been to Washington, D.C., you'll know that surrounding Washington is something we call the Beltway. It's an interstate highway. It's 4 to 8 lanes wide. In the early morning hours of June 5th, a paramedic who was driving to work on the Beltway, he was in almost dead stop traffic on the Beltway. He was in the far left lane. Paramedics looks out his window and he sees laying on the ground a handgun. He's dead stopped in the roadway. He thinks it's bizarre, but he gets out of his car, picks up the handgun, looks at it, and what he does, which is phenomenal, he immediately goes directly to the police station that's nearest to where he is, but also this location is only a couple of minutes away from Eric's apartment and the apartment building where Katrina lives.
A gun of the right caliber found so close to Eric's building the morning after he's killed is too much of a coincidence to be ignored. But it's not enough. The investigators still need to find the gun's owner.
After the .380 was found on the side of the highway, the officers really did have their work cut out for them because there is no national gun registration where you can simply take a firearm serial number and track every owner previously of that gun. The only ability for the detectives to do it is to do it by hand from owner to owner.
Turns out that gun was originally sold in a town in Mississippi. Katrina Ben is from Mississippi. It was initially sold in a gun shop only a few miles away from her house. An interesting coincidence.
Each physical location, they had to access the physical piece of paper related to the gun, and they had to keep doing those steps, which included Mississippi, West Virginia. They had to go to several different places.
The detective goes down to Mississippi itself, and he begins to trace from gun shop to pawn shop to pawn shop how that gun changed hands like 7 or 8 times. That gun was owned by various people.
I won't forget when Detective Rubin called me and he said, we finally got that last trace back. It's Katrina Benn's gun. After the gun was traced to Katrina, the detectives immediately got the arrest warrant for her and went down to Silver Creek, Mississippi, and arrested her at her parents' home, and then interrogated her in Mississippi for the murder. And that, quite frankly, was one of the most bizarre interrogations that I have ever seen.
You still think you didn't kill her?
No.
Okay. Do you own a firearm?
Yes.
Okay, what kind of firearm do you own?
The 380.
Okay, why didn't you tell us that last time?
Because you never asked. I didn't kill anyone, so it's no need for me to say I have a gun. I mean, you never asked. You asked me, have you ever held a gun? Mm-hmm. Have you ever fired a gun?
And Detective Rubin said, no, that's not true. And she said, no, you asked me if I held a gun. And you asked me if I have ever fired a gun. And my answer to both of those were no. You never asked me if I owned a gun. And Detective Rubin's response was, I promise you we did.
Unfortunately for Katrina, the first time she is asked about owning a gun is recorded.
Do you own a gun? Have you ever fired a gun?
No.
Do you have
probably should have one.
What was so bizarre about that interrogation was, first of all, it was so long.
I mean,
she loves to talk about herself. And Katrina Benn will always think that she is the smartest person in the room. And she was going to admit to nothing, but she told her life story. The most interesting part of the story she told was why, when she finally admitted that she owned a gun. And it was because she had 11 stalkers throughout her life.
Think of me as just a regular person. I'm not a detective. I'm listening to the story.
You told me, I said I didn't remember buying it. I just told you I bought it 03, 04.
No, I said you remember buying it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I'm just a regular person listening to the story, right?
Right.
If I don't have an explanation right now, and it happened before on cases with me, I'll walk away thinking you're basically a cold-blooded killer. I've been in homicide 4.5 years. You're one of the best people I had to deal with, not just like smart-wise, but just, you're very polite. You tell a good story. I tell a good story.
Katrina refuses to admit to the crime at all. But by this point, there's enough evidence that a case is built around the perceived events of the night of the murder.
This was not a loving relationship. The investigation seems to reveal she did not know that. I think she felt her status was significantly more profound with him than it actually in fact was. And apparently there was at least one occasion where she saw him out with another woman. So this was beginning to build. And, if you read the text messages on the night that Eric died, you can see a lot of frustration because even on the night he died, he tried to break the date, but she wouldn't stand for him breaking the date.
What we were then later able to discover through the investigation was before Katrina came down to Eric's apartment. Through her key fob, her movement was recorded that night. She left her apartment, she went to her car, she came back into the apartment building and then down to Eric's apartment. And that's where we believe that she retrieved the gun. Katrina Benn, again, in her own statement, says that she then woke up at about 5 in the morning and she wanted to see what time it was. So she looked at his phone. The phone that was never recovered. And we believe at that point that she accessed the phone and was able to see that Eric was out with several different women, sometimes more than one woman on the same night of the week. And that was Katrina, with her earlier statement, nobody plays me that way.
I will tell you, the nature of the relationship she envisioned is not the nature of the relationship he envisioned. The reality is that Eric had a long-standing relationship with another woman who'd been dating for about a year. The next morning, she went to her car, not dressed for work. left her apartment, went someplace, came back a half hour later, walked back into her apartment, nothing in her hand. She later on claimed that she got gas. Checked her credit. She bought gas by credit card. She didn't buy any gas. But if you drove from her apartment, drove down the block and got on the Beltway, because the entrance to the Beltway, where the gun is found, is down the end of her street, and then just sort of looped around and came back to the apartment, it would take you almost precisely and exactly 1/2 hour. She left her apartment with the handgun, went down the street, threw it out on the Beltway, came back to her apartment, armed with the information that she was no longer in possession of the murder weapon.
Katrina could tell you everything. She could tell you where she placed a wine glass. She could tell you the exact route they took to the drug dealer's house. But she couldn't remember when she last saw her gun, where she last had it, or where she put it. And for a woman who was so cunning about all these details and so exacting about all these details, it was very easy for the jury not to buy that part of her story.
Oh, you can think what you want to think, and you can stop talking to me right now.
It's not about that. It's about science and common sense.
Yeah, you can keep talking. Go ahead. You want a lawyer? Is that what you're saying to us? That's fine. We'll walk away. Yeah. Bye. We'll walk away. Bye. All right. Thanks for the visit. Nice seeing you.
At this point, the evidence is sufficient that even without a confession, there's more than enough evidence to place Katrina Ben under arrest.
She was arrested on June the 21st, 2013. Slightly, a little bit.
On June 6, 2012, believed to be killed 2 days earlier. After a year-long investigation, with little more than ballistic forensics to lean on, Katrina Ben is arrested on June 21st, 2013.
Our case for Katrina Ben was a very circumstantial case, but we felt that it was a strong circumstantial case, which is why we were comfortable bringing the case. And in Maryland, the law makes no distinction about the weight that you can give to direct evidence versus circumstantial evidence. And the biggest piece of circumstantial evidence we had in our case was the gun. Once that gun was found, Katrina was charged. And then once she was charged, based on the legwork regarding that gun, we were comfortable prosecuting her.
Even without confirmation that Katrina's gun must have been used to kill Eric, the evidence that it could have been used is too much to ignore.
We did recover a bullet from Eric's body, as I mentioned earlier. The bullet became deformed upon entering his body. It was mangled. It was not suitable for comparison purposes uniquely to her handgun because of the deformities that were present in the bullet that was recovered.
There were a lot of coincidences that the jury was going to have to believe that that gun was not the murder weapon. Because Katrina Ben was the last person to see Eric Samoa alive. We could prove that. We could prove it was her gun. So you would have to believe that someone else used Katrina Ben's gun to kill someone she knew. And they did that within hours of her leaving Eric Samoa's apartment. And then they took her gun and threw it on the side of the highway sometime between the day Eric was killed and 2 days later when it was discovered. That area of the highway is only about a 20-minute drive from the apartment. And Katrina did what we call the trip to nowhere. She left her apartment. She left without her cell phone. She was gone for exactly 1/2 an hour. She returned to the apartment. She picked up her cell phone and then she went to work and she was able to make it to work on time. In Maryland, motive is not an element of the offense, but the jury can consider a motive or lack of motive as a reason to convict or acquit. And juries, they want motives, quite frankly. And that was a very hard part of the case for us. But when you looked at the text messages and you looked at the time frames and you looked at how that relationship between Eric and Katrina soured, the motive was sort of the oldest motivation in the book, right? Jealousy, and a scorned lover. That is ultimately the motive that we put forth to the jury. In Maryland, it's always the defendant's right to speak last. She spoke at her case and she turned directly to Eric's family and spoke and denied it all and said she loved him. And that was like a spectacle. The family lost their minds. They ran out of the courtroom. We waited till she was done speaking, and then Detective Rubin kind of ushered everybody back in. The final verdict in the case was Katrina was guilty on all counts. The jury convicted her of first-degree premeditated murder, and they convicted her of use of a firearm during the commission of a felony or violent crime.
She got the most profound punishment you can get under the law in my state, life without possibility of parole.
What we said to the judge at sentencing, and I think what is still true today, is this was not a crime of necessity. This was a cold and calculated murder simply because of a slight that this woman felt. Eric didn't take her out. He didn't show her off. He didn't take her to nice dinners, and he didn't call her when she wanted to be called. And that is the sorriest reason ever to take someone's life. Katrina is not someone that can be rehabilitated because there was no necessity for her crime. She killed simply because she felt slighted. And in that case, there's no telling what she would kill over again.
Eric was a good guy. He was a fun guy. He was considerate. He was, by most people's standards, pretty wealthy guy. He was generous. I think he was generous to his friends. He was generous to his family. Obviously, this was catastrophic to them. Eric's family, this was an immigrant family. Eric's mom and dad immigrated to the United States. So this was an American success story. Eric was an immigrant family success story that any family could be proud of, and this family was enormously proud of Eric.
Eric's family was very appreciative for the work that the state's attorney's office and the police department put into solving Eric's case. It was not an easy road, and it was not a straight line, and the case was cold for a while, but the family was very satisfied, I do believe, with the verdict in the case. It is truly a case where everybody that was assigned to that case, I do believe, was in the exact right place at the exact right time to hold her accountable. It really was a team effort between the prosecution, between the police department, the forensics teams. She was so smart. She was so calculating. And there are just so many things that could have happened in a different way that would have left her out of the picture. If Detective Rubin had never thought to look for that Mississippi license plate, the very next day she would have moved to Baltimore and potentially no one would have found her. If Brad Shoemaker hadn't looked over on the side of the road and turned that gun in, it might have been destroyed forever. There were just so many little pieces on that case that had to come together to get justice for Eric.
I think the families of these people, look, if you have a dead son, brother, loved one, they're still dead. I think justice is served to the extent that the person who did this was a cold, calculating execution. I think it was a magnificent police investigation, and we had the benefit of a good Samaritan giving us that gun. So justice is served in the sense that the person who did this killing is in jail for killing him. Still doesn't take away the pain from the family.